In this session, I'm going to discuss how we can work Django forms in Django. So let's try to understand Django forms, how we can create Django form. So in Django, you can create a template. You have seen using HTML code. Using HTML code, you can create a form also. How you can create a form using HTML? Using form tag. In HTML, you have form tag. You can use form tag to create a form. Actually, it is a very important concept in web development because the main purpose of the form is to take user input. How you can take user input in web application? In web application, you can take the user input using the form. You have a form, yes or no? We have some field, input fields, yes or no? Using those fields, we can take an input from the user. Just like you can check here, you have field, you can check here, you have a form. Okay, let's check here. Here we have form just like so. I have opened this website. So in this website, you can check here, user can input username and password value by entering in this form. So in this form, we have two fields, yes, no, like username and password, and we have one button. User can enter username in username field, and user can enter password value in password field, and then can click on login button. Once user click on login button, then it will process this form and verify whether whatever username and password entered by the user, it is a valid or not. So now, how we can create this form? We can create this form using HTML form tag, or in Django, you can create this form using Django Python code. So we can develop form very easily with Python code in Django. So Django will provide one facility to create a form using Python code. So what the advantage? Django forms over HTML form. So we can develop form very easily with Python code. And we can generate HTML form widget component like test area, email, password very quickly manner. Okay, let's now try to understand how we can create form in Django using Python code. So here you can check this is your project. In this your project, yes, no, you can check it. There are several files, views.py, url.py. Let's here I'm going to create one file with name forms.py file. So here I'm going to create one file with name forms.py. So first what we need to do, we need to create one file with name forms.py file. This form.py file will contain our Python code that can be used to generate form. So in the form.py file, if you want to create form in Django using Python code, so in Django we have one built-in class form class. So from Django, we need to import one module. From Django, you can check here. Let's save it from Django. We need to import forms module. We have one module, forms module. Which module? We have one module, forms module. Let's now we import forms module. So let's remove this line. We have import forms module. So how you can create your form? Suppose if you want to create any form, suppose I want to create very simple form, one customer login form. I want to create one customer login form. In this customer login form, suppose we have two field, username and password field. Just like we have two field, username and password field. We have two type field, username and password field. Username and password field. So I want to create one customer login form. So this form name, suppose I give like just like customer login form. I want to create one customer login form with two fields. One is a username and password. How we can create? So we can create just like how you can create a Python class. So create one Python class. I give the Python class name customer login. So this is a Python class. This is a normal class, but I want to make this class as a form. Form contains fields. Yes, no? Form is nothing, collection of fields. How we can make this class as a form? You can define user-defined class just by inheriting predefined class forms. In forms module, we have one predefined class form. Once you inherit this class, so now your class acts as a form. Now your form, suppose your class contains two fields. One is a username field, and now username field contains which type value. So in this forms module, we have one method you can check here. If you want to create one field within a form which contain character type value, so on form modules, you need to call one method char field method. Char field method used to create one field which allow character value. So here we have create one field with name username and which allow which type value character type. Similar, I want to create one password field. So password, I'm going to create one password field. So forms dot this field contains which type value. This field contains character type value also. So I created one method char field method. So here we have created one customer login form. This customer login form contains two fields, username and password field. It means this what does? This will create one form with two fields, username and password. So first field name become username, second field name become password. So it means there are two fields will be created. First one for username, second for password. So here we have create one form using Python code. Now after creating this form, now this form we need to render in the template from the view. So from view, we pass this form to the template to render this form. So now we will move to the views. I'm going to define one view. From the view, we are pass this form to the template. So let's here we define one method view like customer form. And now this we will take as a parameter request object. Now we return render function. Render function what will take as a parameter request object. It will take first argument as a request object, second argument it will take as a template name. So suppose here template name customer.html. And now, okay. So in this customer.html, which form we want to render? Whatever form we have created using Python code in Django. So which form we have created? I have created one form under form.py. So let's now we import form.py. Import these modules. So how we can import? So in the current directory, from dot, now we need to import, what we need to import? Forms. Once we have imported, now you can check here. In this forms, you can check in this form module, we have created one form. So I declare one variable form equal to, how you can access forms dot, which form? We have created which form? Customer login form. So we create one customer login form object. Customer login object. We have created customer login object. So once you create this class object, it means one form you have created with two fields. So I have created which form object? I have created here customer login form object. It means one form is created, one customer login form is created with two fields. Now this form we need to pass to the template. How we can pass data from view to the template? We can pass the data from view to the template using context object. So let's say what we want to pass here. We want to pass this form to the template. So we can create one dictionary. And now in this dictionary, we can place this form in the form of key and value pair. We create one key with name form. and now we pass this form object as a value, which this form object we are passes as a value. Now this dictionary we need to put into context object. So let's, in the third argument of render function, we pass as a context parameter. In this context we have set my dictionary. So my dictionary actually contains form. Now we are passing this form. Now after passing this form, now this form we need to render in HTML. HTML will hold this form. So go to the template folder. Let's create one new template. I will give the template name like customer.html. So here we created new template. In this template, I will write this basic HTML code, customer.html. So let's we remove this tag, yes, no. And now here, if you want to, actually I have created one form with two fields, yes, no, username and password. Those fields we want to populate here. So let's here we create HTML form. I have created one HTML form. Form tag is open, form tag is closed. We have created this HTML form. But in this form, we require two fields, yes or no? Username and password. So already we have created one Django form that we have passed. That field we want to populate inside this form. So we have passed the data as a form from the view to the template. So how we can render that data in a template using template tag? Just a double curly braces. Within a curly braces, you can write that key name. What is the key name? Form. Now what it will do? Now it will populate that form. It will bind that variable value within this form tag. So let's now we try to run once again. So let's save all. And now we run this project once again. Okay. Before going to run, you can check that you have defined view, which name? Customer view, customer form. Now we need to bind the URL pattern for this view. So go to the url.py, and now here I'm going to define one more URL pattern. So I'm just copy the path, and here we can write down /customer. So this URL pattern for which view? Views.customer form. Let's save it once again. Now go to the browser and let's run once again. So copy this URL. Okay, let's copy this URL once again and now run it. Now what the URL pattern? /customer. So /customer. Now you can check here. Here it will bind one form. You can check here. In this form we have two fields, username and password field. You can check here in the HTML code. We have not written this line of code. Go to the template customer.html. You can check in this HTML. We have not written this line of code for creating username and password field. But here you can check here. We have defined our form dynamically. And here we create one form with two required fields. Now these forms we are populating in a template. So we can create form using HTML code, as well as you can generate form in Django using Python code. So this is a very simple way to generate form using Python code in Django. So you can generate a form in Django using Python code also. Now go to the customer.html. Now you can check here, guys. By default, actually, when you have a form, actually in this form, we can create one button also. Within the form, we can create a button. So here we create one button, input type equal to submit button. Actually, once you create a submit button used to submit our form. If you want to submit our form, you can use. So I give the name like submit. I give the value like as a value attribute. In the value attribute, I give the like submit. So I have created one submit button. Now we want to save this and runs once again. If you refresh this page, now you can check here. So suppose we want to enter username and password and we want to click on submit button. So you can check here. Once you click on submit button, you can check by default it's showing it is a required field. Let's we enter yes, no, username, password, something, and now we try to submit. So here you can check here when you submit the form, you can check form is submitted and whatever data you have submitted, you can check here. You have created one field with name username. Yes, you know what is the field name become username, and what is the second field name password. It means there are two parameters. This is a parameter form parameter. Yes, no. Whatever information you have passed and you have submitted, that information will be shown in the URL bar. Actually, by default, when you create a form, request method is a get. So if you submit the form in get request, whatever information you client entered, that information will be appended at the URL. But if you make form method as a post, you can check here. If you make method equal to post, so now whatever information you have submitted, client submitted, that information will pass from client to the server in the form of request body. That information will pass from client to the server in the form of request body, and that information is not visible to the end user. Let's refresh this page once again. Now we refresh this page once again. Now we enter some data, you can check here. And now we enter some data. If you click on submit button, once you have clicked on submit button here, you can check here, you will get the error, which forbidden 403. Actually, what meaning of this? CSRF verification failed. CRSF, it means actually, what meaning of this? This means actually when you have a form and when you submit the form, actually you will get this error. If we submit this form, we will get 403 status code response forbidden. It's saying CSRF verification failed. Request aborted. What is the CSRF token? Actually, every form should satisfy CSRF. CSRF means cross-site request forgery. Cross-site request forgery verifications. Otherwise, Django won't accept our form. When you submit the form in form of post request, every form needs to satisfy this token. Every form needs to satisfy this token. Otherwise, Django not accept our form. So we need to add one token. So go to your our form. Yes, no. So before going to submit, you need to yes, no, accept this token. So let's we add this token. Curly braces percentage which token CSRF underscore token. Let's save this form once again, and you can refresh these forms once more. Let's refresh this form. Now enter the username like something and password. You click on submit. You can check here. Now form is submitted. Information is submitted. Now you can check whatever client submit the information. That information is not visible in the URL. If you make a post request, so whatever information will pass by the client, that information will pass in the form of request body. That information will be not visible to the URL. So here we are able to create form in this way. Here we have created one form. Yes, no, which form? We have created this customer form. Okay, one more thing. Let's suppose once you populate this form, but suppose I want to display this form like in paragraph. So here, if you want to render this form as a paragraph, so here you can add form s underscore p. So this line what indicating? Actually, Django render Django form in the form of paragraph. If you save it, refresh it. Let's now refresh. You can check here. Now your form render in the paragraph form. So you can check here now. You after username, which field is come? Password field is come. So you can render form either in paragraph form. Yeah, you want to render suppose form in table form. So you can make here changes. Okay, here I need to render the form in table form. So you can add form dot s underscore table. So now it will render this form into table form. If you refresh this form, now you can check it. It will create a table and it will wrap the within a table tag. If you can click inspect, you can check here. If you right click, here you can check right click on the page and here you have option view page source. Now you can check here. If you want to check, you can check here. Now automatic you can check here. It will, yes, no, it will bind in that. Now it will populate the table in which form? In tr tag, table tag. Now it's using tr tag. Now you can check here. If you bind here, you want to render table in paragraph form. So s underscore, you can write p, s underscore p. So now again save it. You can close this page, refresh once again. Now you can right click on a page. You can check view page source. Now you can check here. Now your form will be wrapped. Your element will be wrapped within a paragraph tag. You can check it. Similar, if you want to render in list form, suppose, so you can write s underscore ul tag. You can save this one. And now if you can check here once again, if you refresh this page, now you can check here. Right click, view page source, you can check here. Your yes, form field will be wrapped within a li tag. Now you can check here. It will wrap within a li tag. So you can make it dynamically also. In which form, suppose I want to render in paragraph form. So you can write just as paragraph. Now you can check here reference. So now in this way, we can populate the form. But now suppose once form we have entered the username, yes, no, and password, whatever username and password we have entered. And when we click on submit button, then I want to read this information. I want to read this information. So client actually will send this information. Now we want to read this information at the server side. Yes, no? So whatever information will send by the client, we can read that information on the server side using request object. Using which object? Request object can be used to read the client information at the server side. If you want to read, yes or no, if you want to read the client information, yes or no, you can read client information and server side using which form, guys? Using which object? Request object. Using request object, we can read that information. Let's now we try to check it. So here, once you click on submit button, very important point, when form will be submitted? When you click on submit button. Once you have click on submit button, then form will be submitted to the server. When form is submitted to the server, then whatever information will enter by the user, yes or no, that information I want to read on the server side. I want to read that information. Okay, so let's now we are try to implement. So now we will move to our VS Code. Okay, understand when you click on submit button, form is submitted. Now here we need to define one view actually. When your form is submitted, go to our view. Go to our view. We have defined our view, customer form. We have created customer login. Customer login form we have created. Now we need to check once form is submitted. What we need to check? You can check here. Once form is submitted, here when client make a request for this yes no view by specify the URL pattern, this view gets invoked. Inside this view, we have created customer login form. And now in customer login form, Let's we are checking whether client make a get request or post request. How we can check whether client make us a get request or post request? So you can write if. Here we can identify using request object. Request object contains one property like method. Request dot method. Request dot method. Here request object contain one property like request dot method. It contain one property. If request method equal to post. If request method is post, then only we want to process. Yes, when we want to process, I want to process only if the request method is post. So here we have checked request method equal to post. If request method is post, then what we need to do? If request method is a post, then we want to create a form, yes or no, with post request, yes, no? Sorry, form equal to which form? Customer login form, customer form. So here we need to create customer login form. So customer login form, how you can access forms dot customer login, and you can pass that post data using request object. Request dot post. Request dot post. And after creating the form, yes or no, then you can check whether form is valid or not. So you can write condition if form dot, here you can call one method is underscore valid. Actually, this method return true or false if form is valid. Valid means, suppose you can check here. Suppose without entering username and password, if you click on submit button, you can check here. It will showing if this is a required field. It means your form is not a valid. Your form you can call as a valid if you are enter valid data in each field and then you are submitting, then we can call your form is valid. So if form is valid, then after valid form, whatever processing you want to perform, you can perform here. So right now I'm just writing pass keyword. We are nothing doing here. Suppose next, if your request method is not a post, if your request method is a get, then what you need to? You need to create a form with empty form. Yes, no, with empty field. So here we have forms dot customer login. I have created one customer login form. We have created just empty form. And now finally, we have created a dictionary. You can check here. And now we pass this form to the context object. Now you can save once again, go to the file, save, and now go to the browser and refresh once more time. Let's click on back button and now refresh. Once you refresh, you can check here. If you click here, now you are submitting the form. Now you can check here. Once you have submit this form, you can check here. Now data is not lost. Yes, here you can check here. Once you submit the form, it means whatever data you have submitted, you can check here. Yes, no? So it will create that form with that data. So first time you can check here. Let's check here once again. I just refresh once again back. You can refresh the page. First time you make a request. So when you make first time request, this is a get request because you are expecting form, customer login form. So once you send a request, you can check here. You will get empty form. Yes, no? This form doesn't contain any field value. So request go to which view? This view gets executed. It will check whether request method is a post or not. Request method is not a post. Condition is false, yes, no? So if you want to verify, you can check here. So print, and let's say this is a post request, yes, no? This is post request. 1 minute just. This is the post request. Which request? Post request. Now, if condition is false, then control go to the else block. If control go to the else block, if request is not post request, then we can say request is get request. So we can say this is get request. Now you can save once again, and now go to the browser, refresh one more time. We type the URL / customer, and now you can check here in the console. In the console, you can check here. Let's now which request is get executed? This is a get request. Yes, Okay. After entering the data into the form, yes, Now when you click on submit button, then form is submitted. So then that request is a post request. You can check here in your template, which template, customer.html. In customer.html, when you click on submit button, then your form is submitted. Which method is using? Post request. So once you click on submit, you can check here. Now your request go to your views. Yes, no. Now it will check. Yes, your request is a post request. Yes, no. If request is a post request, then it will create one form, customer login form, with that data, whatever data we have received in post request. So request.post we are passes. Now you can check it will populate one form with that field and with that value, whatever value we have entered. So in this way, we can create a form and we can render the form, Django form, in a template. I hope it's clear. Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to create. Let's go stop for that.